Hello and welcome once again to Talking Pictures Podcast. I'm your host Dave and joined with me as always my co-host Brian. Brian, how are you today?
Are you happy now?
Happy now? What?
It's confirmed.
Go on.
James Gunn was asked...
Oh yes. Sorry, go on, yeah.
No. You know what I'm about to say, so please tell our listeners what your thoughts are.
you jump straight into it without giving any of the context. We're here today to talk about Creature Commandos. Before we get talking about Creature Commandos, I want to remind everyone we've new episodes every single Wednesday, as well as bonus episodes every other weekend, so make sure that you're subscribed to us in your favourite podcasting app of choice and following us on all of our social medias. What Brian was going to say there was that a problem I was having with Creature Commandos was that the continuity, I felt, was a little bit confusing. And if I, a person who is actively watching it and I know what's going on, is confused, then what's the average Joe supposed to think? How are they supposed to know what's in line or what's going on and what counts and what doesn't count?
Yes.
I felt as though from the first episode of Creature Commandos, and apologies if there's a sound of wind, we're recording this still in the middle of Storm Eowyn, so it's, apologies for that, but you can bear with us for that. In the first episode of Creature Commandos, they mention about Project Starfish, which is directly referencing the Suicide Squad film. And I felt as though...
James Gunn directed Suicide Squad.
I was like, if you reference that movie itself has references to other DCEU projects and...
Does it though?
Continuity. It does. It does. Harley Quinn mentions that her and Boomerang and... and Rick Flag Jr. all were on the team together.
I don't recall a direct mention of that specifically, and if, let's say, it was in the movie, which I am going to fight you, it wasn't. It can be implied, there can be slight light suggestions. Mm-hmm. I don't believe there was a direct specific reference to that, but what is mentioned, referenced, and declared to be factual is that, what is it?
Bloodsport?
No, the team... What do they call themselves? That's not the Suicide Squad.
Task Force X.
That's it. They've done this a couple of times now.
Mm-hmm.
You do not need to have seen any previous iterations of the Suicide Squad doing their missions under the secrecy of Amanda Waller. It can be a thing that is just ongoing, that's lived in. You don't need to have seen the previous movie. Obviously, in this particular situation, we've got the DCEU Suicide Squad and that whole fiasco. So because we are in that situation, we are presented with the potential confusion. I say potential because I'm not confused. So I veto, I rebuff, I debunk, I cancel your confusion on that.
Well, I think it's strange to go in and when you say like, okay, James Gunn says like we're rebooting the universe, it's going to be a brand new universe, and within the first episode you reference something that we have seen before, but in a previous universe. Now, what I was saying, all that I needed for that, right, is say the Project Starfish thing, right, and then our minds can be recalled back to the
events of the Suicide Squad.
But then, maybe in a flashback or something like that, or a small sequence, show us Project Starfish. But swap out some of the characters. Replace King Shark with Killer Croc. Replace Polka Dot Man with Kite Man. Or replace Harley Quinn with Poison Ivy. Just make tiny little changes so that we as an audience know, okay, similar events happened, but ever so slightly differently. Things took place and the same results happened, but different characters were involved. And what James Gunn has now come out and said was that think of the Suicide Squad as an imperfect memory. And that's kind of the continuity going forward. That if they reference things previously, it is that way. That it took place, but slightly different than you remember. Think of it as an unreliable narrator.
And... are you content with that, or
that's all I wanted. I just
don't need to see a flashback of where...
I would still like it. I'd still like it.
Okay.
Because obviously there's a difference between the director saying it or the showrunner saying it and it being presented on screen. So I still would like to see it, and I would just like to have some acknowledgement of the fact that this is very much a different universe. It's just like what I think what I think James Gunn is trying to do is to have his cake and eat it too. He wants all of his things that he's already made
Yes.
to still in some way exist within this new world.
Yes.
But the argument can be made, like, should you just let go and just clean slate, start afresh? And like, I have no problem whatsoever with previous actors coming back and playing either new characters within the DCU or existing characters. For example, having Amanda Waller, Viola Davis coming back.
Yes.
Perfectly fine. I didn't have a problem with Judi Dench coming back and playing M with different Bonds. No one ever thinks of that. It's the same M, but it's a different Bond. You know, so there's no problem whatsoever with Viola Davis coming back and playing Amanda Waller, or you know, J.K. Simmons coming back and playing J. Jonah Jameson in different versions of Spider-Man. And don't have a problem with Jason Momoa. Now he's going to be playing Lobo in the Supergirl movie. And he played, obviously, Aquaman in the DCEU. So, you know, that's absolutely fine. I would just rather a kind of clean slate and not this, you know, having your cake and eating it too. We can't have everything.
I want John Cena to keep playing Peacemaker.
Yeah, and that's fine. I have no problem with that whatsoever.
And I still want the actor to play Vigilante. And we're getting a Peacemaker season 2. You can call it Peacemaker subtitle, but it's Peacemaker season 2.
Yeah, and I think that they should name it subtitle. Because isn't that weird to go into a brand new universe and have Peacemaker season 2, where season 1 takes place in a different universe? Like, for example, right, Daredevil is coming back. He was, you know, previously on the Netflix shows.
Yeah.
But this new iteration of Daredevil, even though they have retroactively made those seasons canon.
Yes.
They're not coming back and saying, oh, this is Daredevil season 4. They're coming back with a new subtitle because, you know, for anyone that's coming into this new and they want to start this universe fresh.
Like me.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have the burden of having to go back and watch season 1, 2, and 3. Maybe they'll make reference to those things, but it's not absolutely you have to watch these things to understand the story of season 4.
Yeah.
You know, Born Again. I see that in inverted commas. And I think that should be the case with Peacemaker season 2 in inverted commas again. It should be Peacemaker, A New World. Something like that. Peacemaker subtitle.
First world problems.
It is a first world problem, actually, but we have a podcast where we're talking about films and TV and stuff like that.
So you're happy, you're content now?
I'm happy, yeah, and yeah. I'd like to see more.
And now we are not faced with the sink or swim, fight or flight moment of if any reference to Idris Elba as Bloodsport having put in Superman in the ICU with a kryptonite bullet. Mm-hmm. Superman being David Corenswet's Superman, which is going to be released later this summer. Mm-hmm. If that is not mentioned,
well, in my mind, that Bloodsport wasn't on Task Force X.
Well, it doesn't necessarily
because it's an imperfect movie. Because it was
imperfect memory.
Imperfect memory. In my mind now, that was Deathstroke.
Yeah,
and he has no dealings with Superman whatsoever. He just deals with the Teen Titans.
Yeah, happy now.
Yeah, happy now. But glad we got that out of the way.
How do you feel about this being the soft first introduction of James Gunn's DCU?
It's interesting because as I was rewatching it, I thought this is such an interesting way to launch the universe, because this show features characters that we know we're going to see now in live action. It's not a case where we're looking at, say, Star Wars animated shows, and those animated shows live in service of the movies, and the movies can decide to acknowledge them, and possibly you might see them in live action. These TV shows in the DC universe under James Gunn are interlinked and happening, and they occur similarly, and they are, would you say they're of as much importance? Maybe not, because I think if you go into Superman this year, having not seen Creature Commandos, you'll be absolutely fine. You're not going to have to know that Frank Grillo is Rick Flag Sr. and we've already seen him before. You know, it's not absolutely necessary, but it'll be cool to see, you know, characters in animation here now, and in 6 months' time we're going to see some of them in live action.
Yeah, well, obviously Frank Grillo would be one of them. I think he's the only one as of right now. Whereas the reverse effect in that would be characters who have been introduced in live action who have now appeared in animation. Most notably, Amanda Waller, Weasel, and John Economos.
And who?
The big guy with the beard.
Oh,
and the
yeah,
glasses,
yeah.
He's walking
The guy in
with
the crutch,
cane.
yeah.
Who is still injured from his finale in Peacemaker. He broke his leg. That's still canon. It's kind of interesting that they have introduced a whole variety of characters in Creature Commandos, one being Clayface. And they dealt with him in the episode he's been introduced. Like, as far as we know, he's been defeated and he's dead. Okay, you're not going to be using that character in the DCU going forward.
But yet they've announced a Clayface movie.
I think that's an Elseworld thing.
Yeah.
I think that's like a standalone, isolated, non-connected movie. It's a once-off. And Mike Flanagan is directing it. Okay, and it's only being greenlit because of Mike Flanagan's.
Script is done.
Yeah, and the pitch was great. So it's interesting. It might feel random as that, but it is. And Clayface, it's a different Clayface to the one we are used to seeing in the Harley Quinn animated show.
Yeah, I've not seen that, so I can't really speak to that.
Completely different Clayface.
I imagine so. Yeah.
And still voiced by Alan Tudyk. And Alan Tudyck's one of the Creature Commandos in this. It's just crazy. It's weird. It's random.
It's strange. I don't know if you found this. It's strange with what we were expecting from Superman, where it's going to be really comic booky and really kind of, I suppose, a real contrast to the Snyderverse.
Let's deem it as heightened reality.
Yeah.
Because when you start introducing characters like Crypto, the Superdog, that should set the expectations of what you can expect.
I thought it's kind of crazy that we're starting off with Creature Commandos, which has a lot of violence and like a lot of gory violence, but also a lot of like nudity and a lot of sex and a lot of that aspect of it. And I was like, this is such a strange, I don't know, it's kind of strange to see it in animation. I just wasn't expecting there to be so much of that and seeing so many naked bodies and there's even like a shot, I think in the maybe first or second episode with Rick Flag, where Dr. Phosphorus is looking through his drawers and like the camera pans over, but it specifically pans over to his underwear and then up to him, and I'm like, this is just kind of like really weirdly overly sexual for an animated show. And I understand it's an adult animated show, but for the context of what universe is being built here, it just felt a little bit strange to have so much sex in it and so much like the violence or whatever. I thought, okay, we're going for an adult thing, but like just the kind of how often we saw multiple characters either having sex or naked or anything like that, I just felt like, I actually kind of don't want to see this.
You should check out Harley Quinn.
Why? Is there more of that or less than that?
I don't. There's a lot of it, but whether it's explicit or not, maybe it was more explicit in Creature Commandos. But being Harley Quinn is now in its 5th season, there's a lot of it. So will we just get into it? Creature Commandos, 7 episodes, 20 minutes in length per episode. What'd you think?
I really enjoyed it. I thought that James Gunn, he really does have he just does have a knack for these ragtag groups, doesn't he? He did it with Guardians, he did it with the Suicide Squad film, and he did it here again, and he puts together this team of characters that realistically no one has ever heard of. I will put my hands up and say, of all of the characters in this, right, the only ones I knew, and it's because they are not like DC characters, they are just general characters, would be Frankenstein and the Bride. And
even then, that's a bit strange to hear that, okay, you're using public domain characters. Does that mean you can use characters like Dracula or Odysseus? Odysseus is from the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Like, what if he's ageless and he doesn't get old?
Yeah, or we're going to use like Hercules or something like that.
Hercules is another example. Yeah, so like, where's the barrier from?
Yeah.
Where's the ceiling of copyright?
But every other character that was either on the team, or like anything like that, like I just wasn't familiar with. But that's the case with a lot of the characters in the Suicide Squad and the Guardians of the Galaxy. He does have a knack for like finding these niche characters and bringing them to the spotlight and bringing them to the forefront and making you care for them. And I cared for I'd say, yeah, no, all of the characters within within the Creature Commandos.
We'll go through them one by one more so because
Yeah.
we're talking about Creature Commandos from point of the characters as opposed to point of the show. But like
the plot of the whole show is quite very simple.
Oh, it's fine.
It's, going over to this foreign nation to protect this princess, coming home, realizing that, oh no, we actually have to go back. They go back, and then they kill the princess.
Yeah.
And then they go home again. Like, it's very, like, it's 7 episodes at 20 minutes each, and it's far more character driven than it is plot.
Absolutely.
So it is a very simple plot, and it's
half the episodes are flashbacks.
yeah, and it's, I think, well, you watched it in one go. You watched it week to week, and then you rewatched it. 2 hours 20 minutes for 7 episodes. Like, that's like the length of a decent movie. So it is far more character driven than it is story driven. So
And it's more digestible, especially when it's broken into 7 episodes, 20 minutes. It's great. It was a great digestible watch, and as a result of the success, it's been greenlit for season 2, and it'd be interesting to see what season 2 will look like and how it will differ.
Yeah. I think I'd like to start at my not my least favorite character, but I think maybe the weakest member of the team.
Let me guess.
Yeah.
Rick Flag.
Nina.
So we're gonna stop talking now.
What? Okay. I felt as though her.
Okay, we're gonna circle back to Nina.
Why? You think she was?
She was my favorite.
Really?
Nina Mazursky is my favorite Creature Commando character.
Okay. Well then, we can circle back to her, but let me just say this, right?
Right.
I think that they left her story too late. I think I would have much rathered 8 episodes and then have her episode still be episode 7, but then have a big finale in the 8. I just felt like leaving her story to the last episode. I was like, okay, I know this is the last episode now, and I just kind of, I felt it was too late for the her backstory, and because otherwise she didn't really do anything on the team other than her first action was also her last action, really. So
Okay, I get that, but like we'll get into that.
Okay.
I don't know, because it's so fresh in my head. I like the order of how they told the stories per creature. So the first episode, it was more so an introduction on every other character. If anything, that would be the go-to designated episode to tell us who Rick Flag Sr. is. Even though he didn't have a flashback. He's the only one who doesn't have any flashbacks.
Probably because he's not a monster. That's an important part of this world now that they set up in that first episode, is that Waller has been told she can no longer have Task Force X. She cannot have a Suicide Squad.
That means no more Suicide Squad movies.
So, but she's found a loophole in that, well, I just can't use humans. So I can use monsters. I can use things that aren't designated as people. And that's how we're introduced to the Creature Commandos.
Well, while we're on the subject of Rick Flag Sr., I was always curious, so is he canonically Joel Kinnaman's father? And the first thing I went to is, how old is Frank Grillo and how old is Joel Kinnaman? It tracks. There's 18 years apart.
Oh yeah, and he does say he has him at 18 as well in one of the episodes. I wouldn't. That's not something that I look at, because I think Sean Connery and Harrison Ford in Last Crusade were only like 15 years apart or something like that.
Like, come on.
No, but it's just not. That's not something I look at in terms of.
But it was actually it was one of the first things I went to look at.
Okay.
And look at the actor profiles. Joel Kinnaman to Frank Grillo. There's obviously a difference in terms of the popularity, right? And maybe the acting talent, but I feel as James Gunn is going to use as much of Frank Grillo as he can, and I feel that already. Having popped up in here, he's going to pop up in Superman, and he's going to pop up in Peacemaker season 2. In fact, I thought we were going to get a reference of him. Okay, here's your new assignment, Rick Flag, and he's going to be supervising Peacemaker team. And Peacemaker is the man who killed his son, which they reference here, which is interesting.
Well, they reference that he's dead, not that Peacemaker killed him. Was it? I don't think.
Well, obviously not Peacemaker has killed him. Obviously that was kept secret. So that's going to be interesting story point in Peacemaker season 2. Looking forward to that very much. So obviously there's a noticeable difference that Rick Flag Sr. has grey hair here, but his hair is black in Superman and in Peacemaker. And I believe that's a consequence of him having appeared in the second season of Tulsa King. That's a Taylor Sheridan produced show. Yeah. So like it's just, and that's James Gunn having said it himself. we just couldn't dye his hair because he was going back and forth filming. So that's just the way it is. He's gonna have black hair.
It's a shame.
Yeah, I know. Like,
just for the continuity of it all.
Yeah, just for the continuity. Well, I think maybe, I don't know, don't make his hair grey. Because that's what I remember I was going to say. Yeah, when we learned that James Gunn was going to do a Creature Commandos, an image came up from online. Even if we search it ourselves, what comes up? All the Creature Commandos. All members.
Yeah, it was the full lineup.
Full lineup. No differences from that initial image. And maybe that image was popularized because of James Gunn popping up in his introduction of what his Gods and Monsters phase is going to be.
Yeah.
And all these members from the Creature Commandos are here. But while on the topic still, but going back to Rick Flag Sr., he was a good leader. He was a good, not avatar, but like go-to point as a human to lead the way. And then he has this little side arc with Frankenstein because he fell for the princess. But did you know that by episode 5, which is when he realized that Clayface was trying to deceive Waller and whatever program they were in, that's when Clayface baned Rick Flag Jr.
Yeah, he's incapacitated. He's gone. He's
not doing anything for the rest of that show.
The 2 episodes.
It's 2 episodes, I know, but like, he's not doing that. He's incapacitated. He's not even, like, I think that's a shame. That's actually a weak thing. Maybe I think we should have had a scene of Waller coming in to tell Flag Senior that he was deceived by the princess and his stupidity has gotten him it's put him in a weaker position, and now he's been downgraded to supervised peacemaker team. And we as the audience know what that means, but whether he's informed that Peacemaker was the one who killed his son, we don't know. It doesn't seem he seems to be avoiding the fact that his son was killed, as opposed to
trying to seek vengeance for him or something, or like even that, or track down what happened,
or even grieve. It feels like he's avoiding grieving as well. So it's interesting, but like, I think that should have been improved on. That's why I think the weakest member, I think, could have been him. I think Rick Flag, and I liked him nonetheless, and I think he was good. But he's when they do season 2 of Creature Commandos, I don't see him like even really being in it, or at least not the leader. Not him, not anymore.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that it felt as though the bride was the leader by the end of the season.
Yes,
it felt like she was now the one in charge.
Do you want to talk about her?
Sure.
She had episode 2 was her episode.
Yeah, we can go just kind of episode by episode on who's the main focus. I suppose that would make the most sense,
because as we said, it's not really plot driven, it's character driven.
Yeah. So the bride, specifically created to be Frankenstein's bride, and
as public lore,
and has an absolute beyond hatred for him because she fell for her creator, and then Frankenstein killed the creator. I thought it was like a tragic love story, but I love how independent she is, but yet doesn't have a name. That she's still referred to as the bride, and that would be in reference to the Bride of Frankenstein.
Yeah,
like her name is directly correlated to Frankenstein, someone that has killed the only person she's ever loved, and has then she has now been on the run from him for hundreds of years. We see that in the montage. The montage.
That was actually a very good one, wasn't it? Like the music as well, the sort of gypsy type music. It was good. It was a good montage to see. Okay, where are her timeline flow? Like where
does she fit in exactly?
Because she's a fictional character, just like Frankenstein, just like Wolfman, just like Dracula. In our world, in our public domain, just like how gods from a religion are, and monsters from mythology. Where do they fit in with these characters that are created solely from comic books? And it's interesting to see how it does fit in, because it goes all the way back to the 1800s or so.
Oh yeah, it starts out on early 1820s or something like that,
and it works through the decades and
right up to present day,
pretty much, and see how their appearances change with the times. And it came to a point where every time Frankenstein appeared to her, presenting her with flowers or gifts or whatnot, she's just beating him up and then running away, and he's chasing after her, and he's always seeing it as she's just being flirty. She's just like,
that's just her way.
And it came to a point where she's just like, not him again.
Yeah.
Like, it went
well,
from...
it's the case that in the last episode, when he comes through the window, she just immediately pulls out
Oh,
the gun and
yeah,
shoots him.
as if, oh, it's literally scratching an itch. That's what it is.
And even, you know, to the detriment of her team, because he's lying on the ground after she jumps out the window after him, and he says Rick Flag.
Yes.
You know, he's going to, you know, reference that, you know, and that'll save Nina's life.
He's trying to... Well, Frankenstein's a prick. And this is the one thing he was trying to do, obviously for his own self-gain, but that would have made him valuable.
Yeah.
But because of their history between the two, that caught up. And he's not even thinking about, oh, if only I had just one more second to warn her that Rick Flag... He's not even thinking about the consequences of him not getting to do the one thing he was ordered to do. He's thinking about, oh, how has this elevated my relationship with my bride further, you know?
Like, it's like that when later on, you know, he's after Rick Flag and him have fought Clayface.
Yeah.
And Rick Flag is on the floor, like, practically dying.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, Rick, don't die, don't die. I have so many questions to ask you. Did the bride ever mention me? How did she say my name? You know, he has a one-track mind, and it's to her, you know?
It's funny how he's... I'll just say it. I think David Harbour did the best vocal performance for... Out of all the characters, I think he was the standout.
Yeah.
Vocal performance.
I agree. Yeah, I think so.
Like, especially in the scene where he's in Rick Flag's kitchen and he's eating cereal or he's drinking tea. I can't even... Oh, my tia piccanada. Like, did you see that movie? Like,
Yeah.
it's just
Have you ever seen this little film called Titanic? Or When Harry Met Sally? Like, just... He has all the references, but not quite there. Even though he's, like, you know, 200 years old as well.
But he's a naive, spoiled child. He's just so stupid. He's incapable of evolving into a valuable member. And the only good thing he tried to do this season to warn the bride to not do something they were about to do at the cost of the princess's life, which was obviously the cost of my favourite character's life. He couldn't even do that. But he's not seeing that as, I failed. I feel so heartbroken. I'm useless. I couldn't. He's not taking that at all. He's just solely focused on how it's got him one step closer to spending the rest of his life with the one he loves. Like it's also a shame as well though, because as a result of the storyline James Gunn wrote for him in Creature Commandos, he was never a member of the team. Yeah,
but he was ever present.
Yes,
he was present from the end of episode 1.
Yeah.
That he's teased right at the end, and then he's in the credits as well. Like, he's not like a secondary character. He's a main character, but he's not part of the team.
Yeah, which is it's nice to have a bit of diversity. While we're on him, what do you think of his backstory? Mostly because it starts with after he escaped the mansion, and his backstory was being nursed back to health from the gypsy woman, and it wasn't so much of a powerful story, and I think he's complemented by the fact that he had his backstory with the bride as well.
See, that's where I think that maybe that's where you could have put Nina's story in. You could have had her backstory in a little bit earlier. I think because I like that the bride and Frankenstein are intertwined, and that their backstories are
they're connected. They come from the same source.
And it's not like, I mean, the bride's backstory starts from her birth.
Yes,
but Frankenstein's already there.
Whereas Frankenstein's backstory, it's more so of
it's after
that moment, but it's about his growth or lack thereof as a character. His carelessness, his selfishness, like what he deems to be a mercy to
kill someone else because he will no longer be there for them. Yeah, and even though she had spent years by herself anyway, he sees himself as such an integral part that no, she can't do it without me. I'm surprised he didn't kill the dog as well. I'm surprised he took the dog with him.
Yeah, he whistled for the dog to come, and so he took him with him. So he's not an entire monster, but like he's clued on as an arrogant prick. Like, don't tempt me, woman. I still got the shotgun. Like, back and forth banter with each other. He's exactly what he's presented to be. And
I feel like if he never had any growth, that would be fine because that fits the character.
Exactly.
The character that will not grow or refuses to grow or change.
And that is his character's arc. And he is still... He's not the most dangerous, but he is one of the most dangerous. And he has killed lots of people in this. Innocent people. Remember when he needed to get a flight to Roscanova, country?
Just killing people,
Killing people in the plane, telling them to, this flight has been commandeered by myself.
Or on the helicopter.
Yeah.
The guy who he takes it upon that the bride and Rick Flag Sr. are in love with each other, and he's like, man, he grows such facial hair, and then he thinks, do you think he says to the guy in the helicopter, you're looking down at me because I can't grow facial hair, aren't you? And he's like, what? And then just kills him and the pilot. He gets these notions, and once it's in his head, that's it. It's there.
Oh yeah, once he starts feeling anxious,
watch out,
run.
Yeah.
And what does he say to the pilot in the plane? Now go do your limited role in what you were born to do in this massive love story of mine, and fly the plane. I remember when he was talking about, I can't wait to be reunited with my bride, and how long until we're there, taxi driver? You know exactly what he's done to threaten. Like, I'm surprised he didn't kill him because he looked at him funny.
Yeah.
He wasn't a hateful character, but he was... I need him to have some form of comeuppance, and
he's very much like, in a way, not a bad guy, but he is definitely like that, not a part of the team.
Yeah.
He's a monster that's not a part of the team. He's a bad guy to one of our characters, that being the bride.
And I feel like the bride is the only one who can handle him.
And her handling him is immediately killing him.
Yeah. But yeah, he didn't die in the end after all.
No.
And when we covered that, the
next one I think is I.Robot.
Exactly, James Gunn's brother.
Yeah. I really liked I.Robot. And I was sad to see him go so early.
Yeah.
Because his episode is also his last episode.
Yeah.
But then I was glad to see him in the finale that he's been rebuilt and he's got a different body. So I'm looking forward to seeing him again.
I actually wish that didn't happen.
Oh, really? You would have liked...
I wish... I thought, oh, wow, they actually killed off one of the members of the team in the third episode. Like, it's only 7 episodes, but it's crazy that they killed one off already. And it was someone like I.Robot.
See, I didn't treat this like Task Force X. I didn't treat it like Suicide Squad, and when going into the Suicide Squad, you expect characters to die. It's in the name. But I didn't feel the same about Creature Commandos.
Well, no, I only feel that way because I know James Gunn is known for doing these type of things for his characters. Like, all the way back to when he wrote Yondu's fate, when he killed Yondu in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I always have that somewhat expectation, unless it's something in like Superman where I probably don't even expect anyone to die in Superman, bar Pa Kent.
I think Ma Kent will die.
Yeah, well, there's a theory.
I think that it might be reversed, yeah.
But I think that I thought, wow, I thought it was great. It was diversive because throughout the first 2 episodes, even the third episode, was like, are we going to kill Nazis now? Friend Nina, I would just love to kill some Nazis. It's been so long since I.Robot has had the time to kill Nazis, and it's interesting to see, okay, where does this guy come from? From World War II to kill Nazis? I was like, okay, so he was built as this machine to kill Nazis, and throughout the decades post World War II, he's been moved around, he's been studied, and he's just been hanging around in shops.
Yeah, once all the Nazis are dead, what do you do?
Yeah, exactly. And the one little growth he had was remember when he killed a heap of Nazis and he's in the bar with all his squad, and he smiles. He turned around and like, he opens his mouth. So, this is I think I like this.
Yeah.
And then he
says,
it's
like when the doctor asks him as well. It's like, okay, if killing Nazis wasn't your primary objective, what would you like to do? And he's like, I just want to meet up with the boys from Easy Company. Like he thinks back to that moment, and he wants to go back to that moment.
And they're all dead, probably.
And they're probably I suppose. There's a possibility they died in the war, all right, but anyone else, like by this time now, and in 2025, they're dead.
Yeah,
you know.
And I like the idea that he is dangerous by default of his code, and that is only to kill Nazis. Like, he'll ask you if you're a Nazi, and he'll suspect you. Are you a Nazi?
That's what a Nazi would say. Yeah.
Like he's, as soon as you see a swastika, like,
yeah. Well, that's what I really liked about his, when he turns up at the modern Nazi party, and he's been, he's been bought by
Michael Rooker.
Michael Rooker's
Yeah.
character, and he's been given a life there. And Michael Rooker's character, for all intents and purposes, is a nice guy.
Yeah.
You know, and he puts the hat on him, puts the jacket on him. It's like, oh, I just don't want you rusting up or anything like that. They watch movies together with the cats. They turn up at the Nazi meeting. He sees the swastika and he's like, Nazis. Immediately turns around and shoots him in the face.
He went, oh no, man, Nazi. It's like he reacted, oh no. But like it didn't stop him for 1 second. He just went killing everyone. And then that shootout interspliced with his shootout shooting all of Cersei's goons.
Yeah.
Like, which is all very secondary in my opinion. Cersei's the witch from what was it? Amazon?
It's not the Mascara. Is it from? I think she was. Yeah,
the Mascara. Yes,
that's kind of the secondary. That's it. Starts out as the primary.
Yeah,
we'll go, antagonist.
We'll go back to her, but like G.R.O.'s having the blast of his life because like he
lives to kill Nazis.
It says he's doing exactly what it says on the tin.
Yeah,
like shooting Nazis. And when he asked Rick Flag, "Are these Nazis?" Yeah, G.I. These are Nazis. Like. I'm waiting for someone to say that because that's all you need to say. It's like, hey, he's a Nazi, shoot him. You know, it's like it gets all euphoric, and
I like that there's no hesitation whatsoever.
Yeah,
and that's even in his flashback that you're right. He kind of nearly sighs and says, Nazis," as in like I kind of was enjoying what I had, but these are Nazis. There is no excuse, and it's a disappointment, but not a hesitation.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I quite like about him is that he just immediately turns around and the first guy he shoots is the one that's been looking after him.
Yeah.
You know, and no, there's no excuse.
And when he lifts himself up in the air and he starts to laugh and like as if he's been brought back to life, and we see how he was prosecuted in court as a man, and he's just sitting there like, what's going? Like he's not reacting. He's just still, and then he's been brought into jail. Whatever the name of that famous prison is, Bellerive, and he just sits in a cell, rusting up, cobwebs on him all day, doing nothing. Like,
well, I mean, for him, he did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
He was designed to kill Nazis, and whether that's in 1944 or 1970 or 1980, whenever it is, he turns up and they've got a big swastika in the back. These are Nazis, and for what he's programmed to do, he's doing the right thing.
Yeah, and. I thought it was a beautiful moment, and the time was perfect for shock factor, of course, as well, to have Cersei come in and kill him. Like to her, it's like just one member of the team, whereas we got to know him, and you kill him at the end of that episode. I thought, wow, I liked it, and I liked that he was starting to develop a relationship with Nina.
Yeah, there was a friendship there, and there was a good. Like he's the one that runs upstairs to get her,
and he lifts
been taken,
and he lifts the bathtub up, and he brings her down. Like he genuinely care, and she puts her hand on him. He's going, hello.
Yeah, and he kind of nearly establishes the friendship, and she's like, "Would you like to kill Nazis with me?" And she's like, "I'd love nothing more than to kill Nazis with you."
Yeah,
and that's when they kind of the spark happens for them.
Yeah. Oh, it's been so fun to kill Nazis, and cheers to the Tin Man. And I thought that was a nice. Well, it was a tragic but also beautiful ending for him. And when you see him pop up at the end, new and improved and all bugged up, like I.Robot reporting for duty, bride. I see him as he's a new memory. Like he's still the same code, but like he probably doesn't.
You nearly think of him as the Groot of this team.
Yeah,
in the same way that Groot died in Guardians 1.
Yeah,
but there's another Groot, even though it's technically not the same Groot. It came from the same one, so that could be seen as the I.Robot of this.
But I don't know. I think maybe it's just me looking for consequences, but I just want someone else to die, and I didn't want to see him at the end. I don't know. I don't want the team to be nearly similar to the next one, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
That's just how I feel anyway.
But I could see, obviously, Nina will be replaced, and I think Rick Flag will be replaced, so we'll have at least 2 new members.
We'll get to Nina.
We'll talk later.
To Nina. But it was nice to see that he brought Sean Gunn into voice the character, and not just him, but also brought him back to voice Weasel as well.
He does. He likes to work with his brother.
No, fair enough. Do you really have a problem with it?
No, I never said I had a problem.
Well, there you go.
No.
There you go. I problem everything. Cause I think I don't know when he's going to appear. I'm gonna assume it's Supergirl. I think Sean Gunn is going to play Maxwell Lord.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that?
I think I did hear that as well. Yeah. That's such a strange such a strange change because he did play Calendar Man in the Suicide Squad.
False memory, interpreted memory,
and then,
unreliable narrative.
And then it's such a big jump because in Wonder Woman 84, Maxwell Lord was played by Pedro Pascal. Mm-hmm. So just very different castings.
Yeah.
Now I have no problem with it whatsoever. It's very different in terms of who he's playing and stuff like that. But
I think Maxwell Lord will be the character Sean Gunn can play where you see his face, whereas everything else he's covered up in motion capture or he's just a voice or he's all like that.
So Weasel, what do you think?
I like that they just didn't forget about that throwaway joke that he killed like 27 children. Obviously, how can you have us root for a character like that? And they solved it.
I think they gave him the most tragic of backstories. All of them,
yeah.
I felt the worst for him. I was like, oh, that's really sad.
I would think so, yeah. Because, first of all, it was not 27, it was like a handful.
It was 8.
And it was exaggerated through media and all that. And like, he's just perceived as a
He's
monster.
just seen as the monster. Yeah, that's all. And that's what your man, the guy who essentially he's the one that is responsible for the kids dying. Yeah. He came in, saw these small kids and what is essentially a giant weasel, a monster.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know that they're all playing together and this is a harmless little thing.
Yeah.
You know.
And do you remember when he put the gun at him and Weasel's tail stood still? You think, oh, that's a sign that an animal like that would attack. No, he runs away and he hides.
He's afraid. He's even though they're all monsters, he's not a monster. He's just like an animal nearly. Yeah. Just a mutated animal.
There was only one moment in the show where you see his eyes, his pupils directly look in sync at something.
Oh, and it's at the picture of the little girl, yeah.
It kind of defeated the purpose when they just went back in opposite directions and he just saved the picture.
Well, it's like there's something going on behind the eyes, you know. Yeah. Like it's even later on, you know, he's the one that goes out and waves down to the princess. Yeah. He saves the princess. Yeah. Because the princess reminds him of the little girl.
He actually saved her earlier at the start as well from Cersei. Like, remember when Cersei was about to kill the princess? In comes Weasel and he starts charging at him.
And just scratching the bits.
Scratches the absolute shit out of it. It's like, wow. This came really fast. Yeah. And then comes Phosphorus. I do love a good barbecue. We'll get to him in a minute. But yeah, and Weasel like trying to save the kids. All of them were dead. Like, we actually see the death of a kid right in front of his eyes, and then another girl in the corner. He's trying to drag her out like a dog saving a child, trying to rescue them, and he gets shot like 3 or 4 times in the process, and he gets pulled out to be arrested while he's watching the girl burn in the
the guys the people that are there are more concerned about getting the monster as opposed to saving the children.
And like, how fresh of that like is that in Weasel's memory, like, because he's dreaming about it, right? Whereas the rest of the team, Nina and the bride, goes, oh, he's probably just dreaming about chasing squirrels. And that's a tragedy. Most of these backstories are all for us, the audience, but they're not.
They don't share it amongst each other.
No, they're all they're not for each other. They're for us. And what Weasel went through, no one else in the team's going to know. And the fact
no one else ever will know, because he's not literate. He can't speak, you know.
And part of me kind of wants him to speak. Part of me wants that, because especially when he has a lawyer representing him, she's calling him John. It's like, what the fuck? Was he a man at one point? Like,
no, when you call someone a John Doe,
when it was explained like that, I was like, yeah, okay, that was good. But I don't know, it's kind of setting up a bit of hope that Weasel will eventually be able to communicate something to someone at some point.
I'm in the opposite camp, where I hope he never speaks. I hope he stays exactly how he is, because I think sometimes you do just need a tragic story, and that is him for me. That it's like, is he a man that was turned into a weasel? Is he a mutated actual weasel? We don't know. But I like the idea that there's something more there. Yeah. And it's trying to break free and it can't. It has to go back to its animal instincts or something like that, you know.
But do you remember when the team was only limited to the bride, Nina, Phosphorus and Weasel, and they all get separated into their own little adventures scattered across the city. Weasel is in the middle of the forest and he gets faced off by wolves, and we're going to see some dominance demonstrated here by Wheels. No, he picks up 6, starts playing fetch with them, and he's like, it's funny. Like, it's actually
Sean
good.
Gunn on the podcast.
Yeah. Sean Gunn is really good. Like, how the hell is that Sean Gunn? Like, you can think about it, but like, you forget that it's Sean Gunn.
Yeah.
Because there's no
words. Yeah.
No words whatsoever. It's all audible nonsense. And it's, you can see he is capable of defending itself at however cost. Like, in the Suicide Squad, he was just a joke. It was just
he's there as a joke. Yeah,
literally so. And now he's been elevated so much more. It's nice to see. And when he tries to step away, he tries not to wake the wolves as well. He's an interesting character, Weasel, and like, great to go from a joke to that, isn't it?
Yeah, to have a bit more meat to him. You know, a bit more that you can latch onto, and he's not just the joke anymore. He still can be that.
Yeah,
but now we have the context and we know how he's gotten himself in this Creature Commandos.
We already talked about Frankenstein, and we'll leave it at that. But the next person to get the episode was Phosphorus.
I think Phosphorus for me was probably one of my favorites. He's probably my favorite on the team.
He's an interesting to talk about because you see him first. Oh, he's the douche. He's the asshole of the team. He's just the dickhead.
He's
right?
the one that least wants to be on the team.
And he's mostly going around with his hands in his pockets. He's the only one who tries to escape. He fights for Flag, and he's a little sucker for. He lost the fight against Flag, and so he circles up. It's like, no, please don't. Upon second viewing, you do see him dancing with the soldiers in his funny little dance, skeleton dance, because when we do get his backstory, it's like, how does this guy go from a scientist trying to do some good to, the death of his family and being faced with it and forced upon being framed upon him, and then he goes to be vaporized into nothing, turning him into the creature that he is. He goes on his lust for vengeance, and it was a bit of a step higher than I expected to take over his drug empire, his underworld, to become a full-on organized criminal gangster, and then going off dancing with the guys in the nightclubs, like the way he does, like a groovy guy. And I just thought that was a little bit out of sync.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it was strange to go from that kind of the scientist, like you're saying there, to getting his revenge. And it's like, okay, well, where do you go from there? And then it's like, crime lord. And you're like, I don't see that being the next step, the next logical step for that character.
Now, he was dancing in the first episode. So one of those scenes where off in the distance, you can see him if you were looking for it. And all right, that was there. There's the excuse for that. But I don't think that's where he should have went. And even though he was reflecting, dancing with his wife at their wedding, but I think what they were trying to do is, surface level, he's presented himself as this dangerous criminal, offloading machine guns at those who wrong him, and posing himself as this threatening, scary monster that, if you do wrong, if you go against the boss,
your face is getting melted off.
Exactly. Whereas realistically, underneath that skeleton, underneath all those flames, underneath all the radiation, he's just grieving all the time, and he slips it in every once in a while. It's like when he feels hurt, like when Weasel bit him, he has to heal himself, and he says that he hasn't felt the touch of another human for 15 years, and rather than being sympathetic about it, he's just being a dickhead about it.
I think he kind of puts up that guard because he has nothing else to lose.
Yeah,
he's lost his family and he's lost his skin. He's now a monster. All he was trying to do was cure cancer.
Yeah, and
now he's left completely disfigured, can't touch anyone. So it's like, what do I have to lose? I'll do whatever,
And I like that kept on circling back to that, saying it looks like that I'm always smiling.
Yeah, but I'm not.
And when he said that to the little girl, he's nothing to lose. What could he do? And then. He's just throwing her in the air and, sorry, we were just pretending to fly. Can you lovely people mind telling me where the castle is? And the point, and he just walks off, puts his hands in his pockets, and on he goes. Like, he seems to be so passive when it's like, yeah, whatever. But then he's capable of like just standing still while a tank goes through him.
It's interesting as a character because he has stuff like that where he a tank can't stop him. He just stands still and moves through a tank. But had trouble fighting Rick Flag.
Yeah, there is some inconsistency there, and I think a real key observant would be if we see Phosphorus in live action. What is he going to do when he's fighting off another human in live action? In TV, in animated,
in a way, you could make an argument that he wasn't actually trying to kill Rick Flag.
Yeah.
In the same way that
he's the power up.
In the same way that with the tank stuff, they are actively trying to kill Phosphorus.
Yeah.
So he is it's as simple as turning himself on, essentially, because, he I guess he has different levels of what his powers is. Because he can throw the girl up in the air and she's absolutely fine. Then other times he literally puts his hand on someone's face and they
melt away.
Completely burn.
Remember, he's trying to burn down the walls. Like, this will take a minute. Like, it just depends. And like, I think he obviously does have control over it. But he is the most dangerous, I think.
Absolutely, yeah.
He's the most
just
dangerous.
power on a power level. Absolutely.
And how could you kill him? You can't kill him.
I mean, he survived the experiment that turned him into that. So yeah. What is there to do? I don't know.
Yeah. So he's an interesting guy, and I think I could see him as the second lead in the team going forward after the Bride.
Yeah.
Like, only because
he could lead his own separate if the squad had to split up.
Yeah.
The Bride is numero uno and he's number 2.
Yeah, pretty much. That's how I could see him as that. But he's a good character. Like, none of these characters were unlikable. I liked them all.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no character within the whole show that I didn't like, which I think is a real testament to it. There's a few characters that were like, they were antagonists and they were portrayed to be dickheads.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, grand, I don't like them, which is absolutely fine. Specifically, and there was one I wanted to shout out. It was a great little moment. I thought it was great. But the two guys in the brothel, the two Irish guys, actually. That is brilliant Irish representation.
That is not
and,
a go-to representation of Irish culture. Oh, by the way, the brothel manager.
Yeah.
Do you recognise the voice?
I did, yeah. One of
Shorea Agdashlu.
Yeah, one of your favourite voice actors. She was in Arcane as well.
She was in Arcane. I think you should watch The Expanse.
And then the other section, it was just a real great moment, and it fit within this world, this adult animation, and that was when the two sons of the Mascara, right?
Yeah.
Cersei's fellas, when they pick up the princess,
yeah,
and he has her over his shoulder, and your man's like, oh yeah, well, Cersei told us just to kill her.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, it'd be a shame not to have a little taste. And I was like, you disgusting piece of shit. And what was brilliant was the princess reached back and just fully scratched his face. And I was like, that is the correct response to a rapist piece of shit like this guy, is scratch his face immediately. And she just like immediately pulls back, rips his face apart and goes. And I was
correct response.
Correct response.
I like that.
So I thought that was a great moment, just for like, it's a terrible moment for what that character is suggesting might happen, but a great way to deal with it and response that we weren't then subject to them bringing her to a room and her almost possibly going through something like that.
There's a limit.
Yeah, there is absolutely.
Halt yourself. Implying it is more than enough.
Yeah,
especially for a character who's teased to be revealed a villain at the end.
Yeah. That even that character is in danger of that, purely based on the fact that she's a woman. Pretty much. That's a terrible thing that unfortunately exists in both our world and a made-up world.
Do you know who voices her?
No, I don't. But tell me who.
Maria Bakalova.
Oh, I did know that. Yeah, I did. I actually looked at the cast, and I know her from The Apprentice and the Borat sequel. She's good. I like her.
She is very good. And
she was great in The Apprentice.
She was very great in The Apprentice. I think she deserved a nomination. She didn't get it. But what else? Her little loyal security guard with the mustache,
Sergey,
he was very good.
Yeah,
and Foster's just killed him immediately when he was onto them.
Mm-hmm. There is no ceremony for some characters either. Like, it is very much just a poof, you're dead.
What do you think of Cersei? Pretty much our first taste of what Themyscira is.
I didn't think much of her, only for the fact that she's not in much of it.
No, she's only at the start.
Only in the first half of it, really. And then after that, like, I liked the whole sequence of the possible future.
Yeah.
And seeing glimpses of that, and like seeing
Our first glimpses of what this DCU looks like when
could
it comes,
possibly go what direction of that,
or and even just seeing what their Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Supergirl.
Yeah, that
look
was
like.
actually something that I didn't
And
mention.
Peacemaker was in there. Vigilante was in there.
There was a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
There was Starfire, who's like a character from Teen Titans.
Oh.
There was Wonder Woman, Batman, Superman. Batman was in the Dr. Phosphorus for a small section, so it's like, okay, great.
Alan Richardson.
Yeah, well, I'd love Alan Richardson, yeah.
Well, it's only because he's a huge guy, that's why.
Yeah, that's true. But I like that James Gunn is establishing, no, these characters they exist and they're active.
Yes.
And, you know, they are within this world.
Apparently, James Gunn had to dial back the directors. No, remove that, scale it back, minimize it altogether. We're not ready to show what Batman is yet.
Yeah.
It's good.
Just a flash, just to know he's there.
Yeah.
You know, Gorilla Grodd was one of the...
Yeah, it's very random, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I like that it feels now going into this, no one is off the table. You know, because we're entering into this world in the Creature Commandos way, and then we're going to go into the more comic booky stuff.
Yeah.
I'm happy to...
Isn't it interesting? No one is getting origin stories anymore in James Gunn's DCU. They're only getting flashback stories.
And I think in a way that's kind of probably a good thing. I think audiences are sick of origin stories. I mean, if we were to do the next Batman movie, right? Let's say they reboot Batman, or The Brave and the Bold.
They are doing a new Batman movie.
The Brave and the Bold.
Yes.
Who wants to see the Batman origin story? I don't need to see Martha and Thomas Wayne
and
be
the Pearls.
fucking murdered again. I don't need to see them walking out of the theater and killed again. I've seen it countless times. I know they're dead. Okay, we can move on. Do you want to do a flashback? Do you want to do like a little nightmare where Bruce is in bed and you see flashes of that? That's fine. But I don't need to see the origin. No one needs to see the origin of Batman again. You know, audiences are happy to just take it as it is, I think.
I think in the Joker movie, they should have had that Bruce Wayne was killed in the alley, not the parents.
Yeah, sure.
Just to
change it.
Just to diversify it up.
Yeah.
But
that's actually initially what the Flashpoint comic book did.
Yeah.
So rather than it being Michael Keaton's Batman like it was in the Flash movie, Bruce Wayne died in the alley and Thomas Wayne became Batman and Martha became Joker, which I think is a different take on it. You know, it's better than what we got. But anyway, the last then person I suppose is the one that you wanted to talk about. You wanted to leave the last, Nina.
She's my favourite.
Why is that?
Because she's the biggest freak of them all.
I wouldn't say that. I would have said Phosphorus
That's
is a
what the
bigger
bride
freak.
said to her.
No, well, she said that. The bride did say it to her, but that's
okay.
just to get her to do something. She's manipulating her.
Yeah. Okay. Why did I like Nina? Because she's the only one who's most decent to being a good human. Mm-hmm. She's the most decent non-human on that team. She doesn't want to fight. Yes, she's there on the team anyway. She's in a prison, and she's in prison because she's a creature. Mm-hmm. Her backstory on how she was born, I was a bit confused. How is she like? How is she human? Like, how is she not born already a fish? Mm-hmm. And how her father, because of his capabilities, Nina, that's her name. Mm-hmm. Her lungs are on the outside. Mm-hmm. Why you focus on that? And her mother left her. How she struggled to fit in society. Like she's looking to be active. How do you play the sport in school? And all the kids are bullying her. Mm-hmm. And just look at her room. Like, she has to sleep in a
fish tank.
Essentially.
Yeah.
And then she leaves to live a life in the wilderness, in the river, in the sewers, however it may be. Like literally, so like the creature from the Black Lagoon. Mm-hmm. Yes, Weasel was the most tragic. I'd even say Phosphorus was the next tragic one. Mm-hmm. But there's something about Nina where I feel like she was done dirty and hard done by as a result of things that were out of her control. Now,
yeah, with the fact that I.Robot came back, that means that Nina's the only one that died, and she's the only one that didn't actually want to be there.
Yes.
And probably the only one that shouldn't have been there.
And when she died, because we're about to see how she is capable of being a valuable member, an effective member in the team. They send her into the water to kill the princess, and because of Weasel, by no fault of his own, he's just a weasel. The princess, she flipped her on switch and put on her self-defense mode and grabbed the knife and just brutally just stabbed Nina multiple times and floated to the top like
a dead fish.
Like a dead fish. James Gunn did exactly what he wanted and intended to do, and make me feel hurt by seeing her die. And the bride rushes in to try to save her. It's too late. Princess pops up, walks by her. We made a mistake. Walter tells her on the phone.
Yeah.
It's like
completely avoidable.
And
like
up to the point. And now I'm thinking, I feel so empty right now. Nina was actually my favourite draw. Like, I loved it every time she was on screen, and the relationship she was forming with the bride, and how the bride, everything the bride said to the princess, how you killed the one thing that made me feel even remotely happy in this world. That's why I'm killing you. And the princess, the way she was talking to the bride, I have no hard feelings about how you attempted to kill me. Like, yeah, no hard feelings.
Yeah, like she's very adult about it. Like,
Yeah.
you were going off wrong information.
Yeah.
I can't blame you for that. And you know,
Whereas the bride is going,
it's personal.
Yeah, you killed my friend. So she never acknowledged her as her friend. And they sent Nina out there to do something to make her feel part of a family, and she got killed for it. And I think Phosphorus even felt a bit like he got the fish girl killed, and he gets a reward and a promotion. Talking about Weasel, like even that one scene where there's just the four of them walking on the hill, and the four of them are just walking like in sync. They're all slow motion, and it's very 2D. It's very old fashioned 2D in the way they're walking. Like Weasel, his arms hanging out and back, and the bride's legs are just there's no gaps between her. The way they're walking, I just like that formation. With the four of them, like I would have liked to have seen them four be a core team going forward, and Frankenstein be the outsider trying to creep his way in and whatnot. But to this day, like it's a bit not a nice thing to be going forward in James Gunn's DCU, and Nina's not going to be in it anymore.
I can understand that. Yeah,
that's just how I feel. She was my favorite. She was my main draw. Call me crazy.
No, I don't think you're crazy. I think everyone's going to have different characters and stuff like that. I think I completely agree with everything you said. I just felt she was left a little bit too late for me. And
I also think it's because she's an aquatic creature.
She just kind of, like, initially that first mission, she didn't have anything to do.
No, but like...
So it's kind of nearly why what was the intent of bringing her? The other characters you can understand, but her, they just kind of nearly brought her along for the sake of having another member. That's just how I felt. It wasn't until they've gone back again and now she's in a situation where she's in water.
Yeah.
That wasn't the intent of like waiting for her to go out. She always takes a swim every morning, so we know that we can get her here now.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming. Yeah, I see what you're coming from. But
that doesn't take away from what you said.
No, of course not. Absolutely not. So who was your favourite then?
For me, I think maybe it's between the bride and Dr. Phosphorus. I think I probably would lean a little bit closer to the bride, but like on a power set level, Phosphorus, and like that kind of I liked his bad boy attitude. I like that, but I liked maybe the bride a scooch more.
She is leading character material.
Absolutely.
What do you think of the opening credits?
Opening credits I liked, but and I don't know why it is.
No,
right?
but he's in Harley Quinn.
Yeah, but I just it's so strange to me to have James Gunn in those credits, right? And I understand he wrote it, but it just seems gratuitous to me.
All right.
And I don't know why. I think I don't have a problem with James Gunn, and I like everything he's done, everything I've seen him do. But just for me, sometimes it can just feel a little bit self-indulgent. And like at the start of the episode where I said it felt like he was trying to have his cake and eat it too. And then also putting himself in the credits when he's not a character within the show. Like, why not have the director?
Because there's two directors over the course.
Have a director at the beginning of each episode.
I'm sorry, do you know the directors? Did they didn't write it?
Yeah, but like, would the average person who's not a DC fan know who James Gunn is?
I think it's a great key factor to introduce audiences, even regular Joes, if they stumble upon it. But if they don't stumble upon it because it's Creature Commandos, what the fuck is Creature Commandos? Even when you go to see Superman, what the fuck is Creature Commandos? It's still not going to go far reaching.
I think when I think of him, I directly compare him to Kevin Feige and how hands-off Kevin Feige is within the films.
Because Kevin Feige is the dual of James Gunn and Peter Safran. Remember, it's not just James Gunn, it's Peter Safran. James Gunn's doing the creative aspect of the DCU. Peter Safran's doing the business aspect of the DCU. It's
I just find that putting yourself in the credits as an animated character, but you're not within the show, it feels gratuitous.
I think it fits quite perfectly, actually.
Okay, well, we can agree to disagree.
I'm happy with it. I'm happy to keep him in there. Obviously, the credits are going to be different because characters aren't there anymore. But yeah, and the way they suggested towards the end with introducing new characters, the Batgirl, I was like, you were in there for one scene. You don't look attractive to warrant a backstory. And when I mean attractive, I just mean like you look too backgroundy as a character as opposed to foregroundy. You know what I mean?
But season 2 come out and you could be speaking a different song.
So I feel the same. There's a mummy knitting in the background. It's like, okay, you're introducing more public domain characters. But there was King Shark at the end. Remember that?
Yeah.
So King Shark is there. Whether he was part of Project Starfish or not, who knows?
But we'll just have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. But I liked it overall. I'm happy with that.
So did I. And I think it was a good introduction into the DCU. But also, if you haven't seen it and you just start with Superman, that'll also be a fine starting point.
Yeah.
You know?
It's great now to see James Gunn announced 10 projects in that introduction of the Gods and Monsters, and now we've got one ticked. And we've got a few coming.
2 by the end of the year. 3 by the end of next year at least.
Superman, Supergirl, and
Creature Commandos.
Yes. And he's doing the Lanterns is now in production. They cast Sinestro, cast an actor for him. And I think there might be meat now behind the Waller show. Hopefully, James Gunn said he's actively engaged in writing in another show. So whether that's Booster Gold or the Themyscira, Brave and the Bold, who knows when that will come, and the Authority. That's the only one that seems to be what's happening.
Yeah.
Like, is it going to change? Are they going to change it to animate? Are they going to change it to animation, or are they just going to abandon it? And Swamp Thing with James Mangold. I think James Mangold wants that to be a standalone, isolated one as well. And
well, I like that he's given people the option as well. Like, this can be a DCU movie or it can be its standalone.
Yeah. Remember, don't forget Clayface. There's also going to be a Sergeant Rock as well with Luca Guadagnino with Daniel Craig playing. That's a one-off, and that's only if the script is good. But
I'd be surprised if that one even gets made. That one feels like a fucking El Muerto. I've never heard of Sergeant Rock, and it just seems so strange to have such a prolific director.
I disagree, because it's Daniel Craig and not a rapper, a DJ, a music recorder.
I think of them in the same vein. Character no one's ever heard of.
You never heard of any of the Creature Commando characters?
Yeah, but we're not getting a Dr. Phosphorus movie. You're putting them all in a group together. It'd be strange if you started off with a I.Robot movie, put them all together and let them grow together. And
do you only feel not the same way with Clayface because Clayface is a middle third tier of a Batman villain? That's how you mightly know him. Like, you might feel like that because, well, I know who Clayface was, but could you tell me anything about Sergeant Rock? No. Sure, I don't know who Sergeant Rock is. Yeah, but Clayface, even tangentially, that he is a DC character and that he's a Batman villain. But if I said to you, "Oh, they're making a Sergeant Rock movie," I go, "What? What is that?" You would have to tell me first of all that it's a comic book movie, and then tell me that it's a DC movie. I'd feel like a lot of our friends would be of the same thinking. What's Clayface? I'd argue with that as well. Yeah, I disagree with you on that. You think a lot? I think probably most people would know Clayface is. And talk about our friends specifically. Yeah, they would know. Yeah. Okay, let's put that to the test when the time comes. Okay. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Talking Pictures Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you're subscribed to us on your favourite podcasting app of choice. We're available on absolutely everything. We're on Spotify, Pocket Casts, YouTube, anywhere that you get podcasts, we're there. Pocket Casts? Yeah, I listen on Pocket Casts. Alright.
or podcast addict. You know, there's a few different types. Make sure you're following us on all of our social medias. They're down the links below. We're on absolutely everything, once again, that you can think of. We're on Twitter, we're on Blue Sky, we're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Letterboxd, we're on TikTok, we're everywhere that you could possibly think of us, we're there. But yeah, make sure that you're tuning in next week. We're going to be having another episode on a TV show. We're doing, I think, maybe three TV shows in a row, because we didn't do nearly any last year, so we're making up for it this year now.
Last year we did a few. It was the first year in 2023 where we did fuck all.
Okay, yeah, so we're making up for it now, so we're going to do 3 TV shows in a row. So make sure to check in next week for a new episode, as well as bonus episode, like I said, every other weekend. So yeah, thanks so much. Brian, any final words?
This went on longer than I anticipated.
Yeah, so...
you imagine this was going to be a bonus episode?
Yeah, initially this was just going to be a half an hour, but we said, you know what, there's enough to talk about here. So yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, David.